There's a question that quietly haunts almost everyone who wants more out of life. Why do some people achieve so much, while others, working just as hard, achieve so little? It isn't talent. It isn't luck. It isn't even intelligence. The real difference is something far simpler and far harder to master. It's how they understand and use time. This video is about what truly successful people know about time that most people never learn. Not productivity hacks. Not to-do list tricks. The deeper principles that separate a wasted life from a meaningful one. Let's start with what most people believe about time. Most people believe time management means doing more things, faster. So they cram their calendars. They multitask. They chase every notification. They believe that being busy is the same thing as being productive. But busyness is not achievement. It's often just motion without direction. You can be exhausted at the end of every day and still be no closer to your goals. This is the trap that keeps millions of hard-working people stuck. And it costs them years, not just minutes. So let's take this apart, piece by piece. Starting with the single most important shift in how successful people think. Successful people understand something most people never fully accept. Time is the only resource you can never earn back. You can lose money and make it again. You can lose a relationship and rebuild trust. But a wasted hour is gone forever. There is no refund. This isn't meant to create anxiety. It's meant to create clarity. Once you truly grasp that time is finite, your choices change automatically. You stop treating your hours like an unlimited supply. You start treating them like the scarce, valuable asset they actually are. That single mental shift is the foundation for everything else in this video. Now let's talk about the second principle: not all hours are created equal. An hour spent in deep, focused work is worth more than a full day of scattered attention. Highly successful people protect a small number of hours each day for their most important work. They call this deep work. Uninterrupted. Undistracted. Fully present. Everyone else spends most of their day in shallow work. Replying to messages. Attending meetings that could have been an email. Reacting instead of creating. Shallow work feels productive because it's busy. But it rarely moves the needle. The people who achieve extraordinary things guard their deep work hours like a locked vault. They schedule it. They defend it. They say no to anything that threatens it. Because they know, an interrupted hour of focus is nearly worthless. Protect your best hours, and your output multiplies without adding a single extra minute. Now let's talk about priorities, because most people get this completely backwards. There's an old observation, often called the 80-20 principle. Roughly 80% of your results come from about 20% of your efforts. Which means most of what fills your day barely matters. Successful people ruthlessly identify that critical 20%. And they build their entire schedule around protecting it. Everything else, they delegate, delay, automate, or simply eliminate. Most people try to do everything a little bit. Successful people do the vital few, completely. This requires an uncomfortable kind of honesty about what actually matters. And it requires letting go of tasks that feel urgent, but are not actually important. Which brings us to one of the hardest skills successful people develop: saying no. Every yes to something small is secretly a no to something bigger. Every meeting you accept, every favor, every distraction, has an invisible price. It's paid in the currency of your most valuable hours. Successful people say no far more often than they say yes. Not because they're arrogant, but because they understand the true cost of their time. Saying no to the good is what makes room for the great. And saying no protects the future version of you who's counting on today's choices. Now let's talk about something almost invisible: decision fatigue. Every decision you make during the day drains a limited store of mental energy. By the afternoon, most people are running on fumes, without even realizing it. That's why so many highly effective people build strict routines. The same wake-up time. The same morning sequence. The same simple choices, every single day. It isn't boring. It's strategic. Routines eliminate hundreds of tiny decisions, which frees up mental energy for the decisions that actually matter. A structured routine isn't a cage. It's a launch pad. The less energy you waste on small choices, the more you have for the big ones. This is a quiet advantage that compounds every single day. Which brings us to perhaps the most underestimated force in all of time management: compounding. Most people overestimate what they can do in one day and underestimate what they can do in 1 year. A small, consistent action, repeated daily, becomes unstoppable over time. 1% better every day doesn't feel like much in the moment. But over a year, that small margin becomes a completely different life. Successful people rarely rely on bursts of motivation. They rely on systems that keep working even on the days they don't feel like it. Discipline outlasts motivation. Every single time. And discipline is simply what happens when you stop negotiating with yourself. Now let's look at how this shows up in the real world. Many highly successful entrepreneurs are known for planning their entire day in small, deliberate blocks. Not leaving hours open to chance, but assigning a clear purpose to almost every segment. Some of the world's most prolific investors are known for spending the majority of their day reading and thinking. Not because reading feels productive, but because deep thinking prevents expensive mistakes. Many top performers protect their sleep as fiercely as they protect their business decisions. Because they understand that exhaustion quietly destroys judgment. Many highly effective leaders keep their calendars deliberately empty in the early morning, reserving that time for the 1 or 2 priorities that truly move their goals forward. None of this is glamorous. It's disciplined, repetitive, and unremarkable to watch. But unremarkable, repeated for years, is exactly what builds an extraordinary life. There is no shortcut here. Only consistency, applied for a very long time. Now let's talk about the single greatest enemy of everything we've discussed so far: distraction. The average person checks their phone dozens of times a day, often without noticing. Every notification pulls your attention away and it takes minutes to fully return. Successful people treat their attention like their most precious asset, because it is. They turn off notifications. They silence the noise. They create physical space to think. It isn't about willpower alone. It's about designing an environment where distraction can't easily reach you. Willpower is limited. Environment works for you around the clock. Protect your attention like you protect your money, and your results will change dramatically. Because attention, not time alone, is where real productivity actually lives. Now let's talk about one of the oldest and most proven principles of success: delayed gratification. The ability to sacrifice a small pleasure today for a much larger reward tomorrow. This single trait is one of the strongest predictors of long-term success ever studied. It shows up everywhere. In finances. In relationships. In health. In career. People who can tolerate short-term discomfort for long-term gain build compounding advantages. While people who chase instant comfort trade their future for a fleeting moment of ease. Every time you choose the harder, useful thing over the easier, empty thing, you win a little more of your future back. Now let's talk about something most people skip entirely: reflection. Successful people regularly stop to review how they're actually spending their time. Not just what's on the calendar, but what truly happened during those hours. This honest audit reveals leaks. Hours quietly lost to things that don't matter. Most people never notice these leaks because they never look. A short weekly review can reclaim hours that would otherwise silently disappear. What gets measured, gets managed. And time is no exception. Reflection turns a chaotic week into a series of deliberate, intentional choices. Now let's talk about what quietly sabotages so many hard-working people. The busy culture. The belief that exhaustion is a badge of honor. Many grew up hearing phrases like, "If you're not busy, you're lazy." Or, "Rest is something you earn after you've proven yourself." These beliefs sit deep in the mind and quietly shape every decision about time. But constant busyness without direction is not virtue. It's often just fear disguised as effort. Fear of stopping. Fear of silence. Fear of facing what actually matters. Real productivity often requires slowing down long enough to think clearly first. Rest isn't the opposite of productivity. It's one of its essential ingredients. The mind that never rests eventually stops producing anything of real value. So how do you actually change your relationship with time? It starts with a single, uncomfortable question: what am I actually optimizing my days for? Not what you say you value. What your calendar actually reveals. Your calendar is a mirror. It shows your real priorities, whether you admit them or not. If that mirror is uncomfortable to look at, that discomfort is useful information. Use it to redesign your days around what actually matters to you. Not someday. Not next year. Starting with tomorrow's schedule. Small changes in how you spend your hours compound into an entirely different decade. So, what do successful people truly understand about time? They understand that time is the only resource that never comes back. They understand that not all hours are equal, and deep focus is worth more than busy motion. They understand that ruthless priorities matter more than long to-do lists. They understand that saying no protects room for what truly matters. They understand that routines save mental energy for the decisions that count. They understand that small, consistent actions compound into extraordinary results. They understand that attention is the real currency, and distraction is the real thief. They understand that delayed gratification quietly builds the future everyone else is hoping for. They understand that honest reflection reveals the hours that are quietly being wasted. And they understand that rest is not the enemy of achievement. It's part of the process. None of this requires more hours in the day. It requires a different relationship with the hours you already have. Time will pass either way. The only question is what you choose to build with it.